A reading from the Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak on his own, but will speak whatever he hears, and he will declare to you the things that are to come. He will glorify me because he will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that the Father has is mine. For this reason, I said that he will take what is mine and declare it to you." In the story of creation at the beginning of the Bible, God says, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness." God speaks of God's own self in the plural. And yet, at the same time, the most important prayer in the Jewish Bible begins, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one." God is both plural and one. And we human beings, according to the Bible, are created in the image and likeness of this God. Humanity is amazingly diverse in race and religion, nationality and language and color and size and shape. Yet at the same time, we were created to be one. We are not meant to be isolated individuals, but rather to have that kind of mutual interdependence which we see reflected in Jesus' words in today's gospel. The Spirit will not speak on his own, Jesus says. He will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that the Father has is mine. The Son receives everything from the Father, and the Spirit receives everything from the Son and gives it to us. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are distinct, yet at the same time inseparably linked and interdependent. Since the 4th century, Orthodox Christianity has believed in what is known as the doctrine of the Holy Trinity, which states that God comprises 3 persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, in one being. God is 3, and God is 1. Now, this metaphor of the Trinity was not devised by some ancient philosophers speculating in their heads about what God must be like. Nobody, using reason and logic alone, would ever come up with 3 equals 1, 1 equals 3. Rather, the image of the Trinity developed as a means of trying to describe, however imperfectly and inadequately, how we experience God, God's creation, and one another. If, as the Bible tells us, humankind is created in the image and likeness of God, and we look out at humanity and see its incredible diversity, no human being exactly like another, even identical twins have different fingerprints, we must conclude that this diversity somehow reflects the image and likeness of the God who created us. Within the Godhead itself, there is diversity. Yet at the same time, there's also unity of being and purpose and mind and action between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, as we read in today's gospel and throughout John's gospel. In our gospel reading 2 Sundays ago, we heard Jesus' last prayer on the night before he would be crucified. That last prayer was for all of his future followers, which includes you and me. And what was he praying for us? That we all be one. Jesus prayed, As you, Father, are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that they may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me, that they may become completely one. That's what the metaphor of the Trinity tries to depict. Diverse persons so lovingly related to one another that they are one. And because this unity within the Godhead is created through loving relationships, and relationships are dynamic and flowing rather than static and stagnant, some of the early fathers of the church used a Greek verb to describe this dynamic, intertwining, interpenetrating relationship. Perikoreo, literally, to dance around. We who are created in the image and likeness of a Trinitarian God are being our truest selves when we enter into this dynamic dance of giving and receiving love without limit and without end. This is why we see so many modern paintings of the Trinity showing figures dancing in a circle. And it is why our last hymn today begins, "Come, join the dance of Trinity." Different persons united as one in a flowing dance of love. We were created in that image. My friends, I think that one of the problems that most of us present-day Americans have with this image of the Trinity derives, at least in part, from the rugged individualism that is such a strong element of our American identity. Diversity is easily confused with otherness. Yes, God created each of us to be a unique individual, but a singular focus on individualism can lead to a separateness, an exclusiveness, a spirit of opposition, partisanship, and disunity, which was never God's intention for humanity, since it doesn't reflect who God is. Jesus prayed in his very last prayer that we all be one. This past week, something happened, a small thing really, that awakened me to how subtle and unconscious the deep-seated spirit of individualism can be in our nation and in our world today. I received a letter from Medicare congratulating me on having set up a new account. If you have not set up a new account recently, the letter stated, please call this number immediately. I had not set up a new account, and so I called the number. A woman answered, and what struck me immediately was the tone of her voice. It was uncertain, defensive, almost fearful. And I thought, this woman is used to people calling who are angry, demanding, and so self-focused that they probably don't even think that this woman is a fellow human being for whom Jesus prayed that she and all other human beings be one. And then I realized that I was one of those callers. I was so focused on getting my problem solved when I dialed that number that I had not considered her humanity, had not considered the tremendous toll that all these self-absorbed, impatient, unmindful calls that woman handled each day took on her soul and spirit. The fearful, defensive, uncertain tone of her voice was like a slap in my face, waking me to this woman's humanity and to my own. It was for her and for me, that Jesus prayed his last prayer, that she and I be one. After I received that slap in the face, I tried to consciously be as kind to her as possible, and I expressed my gratitude for her help. My friends, that one small instant got me to wondering about all the small instants in all of our lives when we allow the unfettered spirit of individualism to counteract Jesus' fervent prayer for our oneness and to fan the flames of divisiveness, polarization, identity politics, nationalism, putting myself and my group first. St. Paul instructed us, give more honor to others than to yourselves. Do not be interested only in your own life. That slap in the face a few days ago got me to thinking about all the anger, opposition, and violence in our nation and in our world that we read and hear about every day. If you are like me, you tend to attribute this hostility and violence to mental illness or evil out there in other people. But that slap in the face showed me that my own inability to recognize the humanity and pain of another person and my tendency to be interested only in my own life, unmindful of the reality of our oneness in the midst of our diversity. This reflects, I believe, a common seedbed, a common spirit of division and opposition permeating our nation and our world today. If only we could recognize the truth expressed in the symbol, the metaphor of the Trinity, that there is both diversity and oneness within God, in whose image and likeness we were all created. If only we could be aware of this and live a Trinitarian life in our world, then violence and division would cease. Preaching one Trinity Sunday, Episcopal monk Curtis Almquist said this: recently, a father of 3 adult children said to me that as a father, you are only as happy as your least happy child. We are family, the human family. The suffering, the loss, the injustice we witness around us wounds us all to our core because we belong to one another, all of us children of God who invites us into relationship, the dance of the Trinity. We can only be as happy as the most downtrodden among us are happy. Most of the world will not know or value that today is Trinity Sunday. But for those of us who do know, we have the power and responsibility to communicate and mediate this circle of belonging to one another. Our human vocation is to live in communion and mutuality with one another, which is rooted in our creation in God's image and likeness. The very being of God is community. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are one in reciprocal self-giving love. This is our vocation, our reason for being in these especially desperate and opportune times. Unquote. This Trinity Sunday, may we celebrate the diversity within God, within God's creation, and especially within humanity, we who are created in the image and likeness of God. And may we recognize that it is our vocation as children created in God's image and likeness to enter the endless divine flow of giving and receiving love, to participate in the dance of the Trinity.